sorry for a couple minute delay, but we're just going to get going here in another 30 seconds or so. So for those of you, if you want to take your seats, and again, for those in the hallway, if you could pass the word out there, we're just ready to go here. We apologize for the delay. Good afternoon. Our next speaker, Geraldine Stith, was born the 8th of 12 children in a rural community in Christian County, Kentucky. The small community of Kelly, in which she was born, is well known for its alien encounter, an encounter that was a big part in the life of Mrs. Stith and drastically changed the lives of her family. She has chronicled her experiences in her book, The Alien Legacy, so let me welcome to the stage Mrs. Geraldine Stith.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good time and learning a lot of good things. I'm here to wow you about a fantastic story that happened in 1955. I'm not here to impress you with all my intellect. That's not going to happen. I'm just a little farm girl. My daddy was a farmer, and that's just how it's going to be. It's just going to be a simple story. We're all here because we believe. I've done several little speaker sessions because of this little book I have written about the story. And the people that come to my sessions are people that are scared. They don't know whether to believe it or not. They don't really want to believe there could be something else out there, and that's just how it is. We here today, we do believe. We believe there's something out there. We may have had our experiences. We know people that's had experiences, and that's just how it is. It's, in a way, a great thing and also a scary thing. In a way, I think we have desensitized ourselves as far as the alien encounter thing is concerned because of our technology. We have smartphones. We see something in the sky, see something outside, we're going to run out and start taking pictures. I don't care where you're at. Driving down the road, you'll be driving and taking pictures at the same time. It doesn't matter. That's just how it is today. And so we've come to this place in our lives where we're just not afraid anymore. So, we have this story. And the thing I want to get across, okay, UFO, friend or foe. We don't know. It's plain and simple. We don't know. This story I have to tell you, I want to try to get across to you. What would you do in a case like this that my family experienced? It was horrifying. I mean, they went through something that was absolutely out of this world, terrifying. I feel for people that have the abductions and this thing because my family was lucky, very, very lucky. But they were the good old boys that learned how to shoot guns when they were walking. So you can imagine what's going to be happening in this story. Of course, it happened in Kelly, Kentucky, 1955. And my mouse ain't coming up. Okay, you can see up here in the corner where Kelly, Kentucky is. And as us little country folks say, wide spot in the road. And that's what it still is today. Very small. Back then, it may have been 100 people. I doubt that many. It was a sparse farming community, and that's what it was. 5 miles outside of Hopkinsville. Railroad track running through the middle of it. Why this little place was visited, we have no idea. But you have, of course, you can see where that is. And this is supposedly the saucer that went through that night. And what happened was, you got 1955, August 21st. August, very, very hot like it has been this month, dry. You have a family, no communication with the outside world, not even running water. All they had was the radio. Had no clue anything like this could even happen to them. And 11 people in the house, 3 very small children. My grandmother, she was widowed at the time. So it was her, my Uncle J.C., his wife Eileen, were living in the house with 3 small children. Then my father had come in with his wife at the time and their friends, Billy Ray and June. And then we had another person at the house, O.P. Baker. He was a friend of the family, also Eileen's brother. They were all there, 11 people in the house that evening. Like I said, my father had come in for the weekend with Billy Ray and June and his wife, and just wanted a nice, quiet weekend just to get away, see the family, get away from the job that he was working at, and just have a really wonderful weekend. And they did until Sunday evening. Sunday evening, Billy Ray, he decides to go out to the well to get some water. Of course, the well water was good and cold, and that's what he was wanting, hot. They had been having a nice evening of playing cards and just, playing with the children, that type of thing. So he goes out to the well to get water. When he goes out there, he hears something, looks up in the sky. This is what he sees: a silver disc. And how he described it, it had colors of the rainbow flowing behind it. Of course, he didn't know what it was. Nobody would have. So he runs back in the house and tells everybody, hey, I've seen something. I don't know what I've seen, but I've seen something. Well, they were young. They were in their 20s, and they thought, of course, well, he went out there, especially my grandmother, thought he went out there to come back in and scare the ladies. You know how it is. So they just told him to hush up, laughed at him, and went on. He kept on about it. And so my daddy finally said, all right, Billy, take me out there, show me what you saw. So they go back out to the well where he was getting the water, and Billy Ray explained to him. He's seen it going across the sky, told him where it was, pointed exactly where it was. And this is not going to work. There we go. Anyway, I'm not supposed to use my laser, but this ain't working. But anyway, you could see where down here at the bottom, this mouse isn't working at all. Down here at the bottom, in the bottom corner, you could see the house is this little bitty. Oh, there it comes. The house is right down here in the corner. The well is right back here, so what Billy Ray seen was going across the field, back behind the trees around the house. Now, the farmland that my grandmother owned, the mouse disappeared, went across, as you could see, all across down through here, all the way up to this corner is where their land was. So the object was going across here. And so Billy Ray was pointing out to my father that it was going across that direction. And my father tried to reason it out. He says, well, maybe it was a falling star. And Billy Ray is like, no, it's not that. It was, going across the sky and went across the field. And so he says, what about meteors? I mean, we've been having meteor showers all month here, according to, my mother. And Billy Ray is still, no. It's not that. He says, my daddy's nickname was Lucky. And he said, Lucky, that's not what it was. He says, I'm positive I've seen something, and it's not either one of those. It's something unusual. So my dad's like, okay, well, let's just forget it. Let's go back in, enjoy the evening. They was walking back to the house, and as they were walking back to the house, they seen something coming out from the woods. And this mouse is not going to work. And I've got a laser pointer, but they tell me not to use the laser pointer. Use it. Okay, so anyway, they were, like I said, something was coming out from the woods. So apparently it had enough time, because it landed back at here to walk through here and come out and was coming back from here. So they went into, what happened was they were, see, I done lost it now. My dad said, well, let's go back in the house, enjoy the evening. And so they headed back into the house. And as they were, the little being was coming out from the woods. So they ran into the house to tell everybody, we just saw something. My grandmother's first thought was, these two guys have been out here, put together this little story to scare the girls. And she told them, she said, y'all, you just need to stop. Because, I have these small children here. I have to get them to bed. And they're not going to want to go to bed if you're out here making up these stories. But my daddy's like, Mom, we seen something. There was something here. And, well, tell me what you saw. And they're like, we don't know. We can't explain it. It was small, 3.5 foot tall, big eyes, big ears, long arms down to the ground. And it floated above the ground. The legs did not move. So my grandmother's like, they really went out and really created a fantastic story. So she just let it go. She wouldn't pay any attention to them. Finally, what did it for was my dad went and grabbed a gun. Billy Ray went and grabbed a gun. One headed to the back, one headed to the front door. And then my grandmother thought, something's going on. You don't go and grab a 20-gauge shotgun, a 12-gauge shotgun, and not be serious about what you're about to do. So she thought, okay. So my dad was at the front. Of course, here is another picture of the house. It's a better picture. But, well, shoot. My dad was at the front, which the front stoop was right here. Billy Ray was right here in the back. There's the well. And my grandmother thought, well, I am going to go talk to Billy Ray. I might can get more out of him than I can get out of my son. So that's what she did. She went to the back door where Billy Ray was. And she went back there and she sat down with Billy Ray and asked him, really, what did you see out here? He's like, Miss Glennie, I don't know what it was. He says, I don't think it was from this earth. I just know it scared me, and I just don't know. And he didn't. He did not know. So it wasn't too long, about 10:30. Now you got to think, the time lapse was probably around 8 o'clock that evening is when Billy Ray first seen the object going across the sky. So this is about 10:30, so that much time had elapsed. And there it came. It came, well, if this laser would work, from around the corner of the house. So here we go. Miss Glennie and Billy Ray's right there. This little thing's coming around the corner. Miss Glennie screams, falls to the ground, and Billy Ray shoots. Okay, so the next thing you know, everybody in the house comes running. Of course, my dad's at the front door. He comes running. And they're like, what's going on? And they're like, we just seen it. We just shot at it. So the next thing you know, there's another shot going on. Well, JC, my uncle, he came back in, and there was one looking here in the front window. So he shoots at the front window. And the battle's on. Okay, you've got, like I said at the beginning, some good old country boys here that know how to shoot. So they're hitting what they're shooting at. Of course, this window here got some damage done to it because he went through the screen. But I know, crazy, ain't it? But anyway, like I said, the battle started and they started shooting this way. The next thing you know, Billy Ray runs out the front door. When he runs out the front door, Eileen sees a hand coming down, grabbing his hair. She reaches, pulls him back in. My dad runs out, shoots at it. Here's one coming around the corner, and you've got one up here in the tree. So he's shooting at one up. Well, he turns around and shoots at the one on the roof. They actually go back in the house at the time. My dad's telling the women, get the children, hide. The women go to the back bedroom. Let's hope this will work. The women go to the bedroom in the back, right here, and they start trying to hide the children underneath the beds. So they're here. My dad comes back out. They find one up here in the maple tree, shoot at it. One's coming around the corner, shoot at it. One is in the back, which you can't see here, but it's back at the back. If I go back to that one, it's back here on this fence. And they shoot at it. So they're having a gun battle. As fast as they shoot one, another one's coming. Now, a lot of the stories you read about this, they say there was 11 or 12 bodies. My daddy said there never was that many. There was 3. Possibly 4, these little beings that kept coming. The thing is, they would shoot once, it would stop, drop, and roll. They knew they were hitting them because when they hit them, they could hear it. Plus, like I said, good old boys, 12-gauge shotgun, you're not going to miss. So they were hitting these little things, and they just kept coming back. Okay, great American horror story here. What in the heck would you do if you had a 12-gauge shotgun? You were hitting these things, and they kept coming back at you. Now, friend or foe, they didn't know, they didn't care. The only thing my daddy had on his mind was take care of the family. His mother, his little brothers and sisters, you know, they were all in this house, and that was what he was going to do, by golly. He was going to take care of everybody and protect them. My grandmother thought, okay, she didn't think they was there to hurt them. 2 reasons. They didn't have anything on them showing that they were there to hurt them. No guns, no little laser guns, nothing pointing at them, you know, nothing like that. 2, they were raising their arms in the air, like in surrender. Okay, so were they surrendering? We don't know. Another thing, friend or foe. Were they trying to be friendly? Were they trying to get into the house for some other reason? Because the main thing was, that's what they were doing. They were coming up to the doors and the windows, seemingly trying to get in. Were they? Couldn't tell, didn't get a chance. You had these good old country boys that were shooting them down. So this went on till around 11:30-ish. They were in the house. One time they even heard one of them going across the roof. The roof was an old metal roof. This was an old weatherboard farmhouse with an old metal roof, and they could hear it scratching across the roof. Doesn't that send chills down your spine? What would you do? So my dad, he's like, we have got to do something. We can't stay in here and wonder what they're going to do. They're out there, we're in here, what are we going to do? So they sat there and they waited till it got absolutely quiet. And my dad said, hit the trucks. 11 people, 3 small children, my grandmother, run out the house, hit those trucks, and head to Hopkinsville, 5 miles up the road. My daddy thought, we'll get to Hopkinsville, we'll get help. No big deal. Scared to death. Pull up to the police station. Of course, there's an officer on duty. They run in, and he's like, 11 people running in on him. What's wrong? And they explain, we've just seen something. We don't know what it is. We need help. What did you see? Men, little gray men, 3.5 feet tall. They're trying to get into the house. We need help. He's like, hold on. So he wakes up the sheriff and tells the sheriff this fantastic story. He says, I have got this family here. They're frantic. They're scared to death. I don't know what to do. He tries to explain to him, and the sheriff's like, 3 foot tall men? And yes, I need your help. And he's like, okay, I'll be right there. He said, call Madisonville, call Evansville, call Fort Campbell. Fort Campbell's the Army base down the road from Hopkinsville. Call everybody you can get. We're going to go out there and see. The reason Sheriff Greenwell was so into this was a couple of years before this happened, he had his own experience. So he was not closed-minded to the fact something happened, which was a good thing. So the next thing you know, they pile back in the trucks. Everybody's heading to the poor little house in Kelly. You have got cars. It's like a fair down there. And they're traipsing all over the place. They're trying to find something, anything to prove that there's little bodies out there. They wanted to find a body, of course, and they thought they would. You think about it, 12 gauge, 20 gauge, 22 rifle. Surely something's dead. Surely there'll be evidence that something's on the ground, blood, anything. Couldn't find a thing. The only thing they could find was the shells from the rifles and the shotgun. Of course, when they were coming up to the house, some of the officers noticed a glow back here on the fence where they had shot that one off the fence. There was a substance on the ground that glowed, but when they'd walk up to it, it would disappear. They couldn't figure. They'd back away from it. There it was again. Walk back up to it, it would be gone. Go figure. Don't know. So anyway, they traipsed and traipsed and traipsed, looked and looked, couldn't find anything. And of course, they looked for alcohol, anything that could have proven that they were kind of, they seen something. But then, you got to think, okay, grandmother, very, very religious. She would not allow alcohol in the house. 3 small children. No, that's not going to happen. So they kind of just ditched that out of the way and thought, well, we can't find anything, so what are we going to do? So they decided to leave. What could they do? No proof, nothing there, no samples were taken, nothing was done, as far as trying to prove anything. But so they left. And this is what they seen when they looked at the screen. Of course, the CDB, these little BB things, that's where the shotgun left all this stuff. Now, this has been analyzed and proven. They took this screen and they did prove that shots were fired. This right here on the side is the woodwork where part of the woodwork got hit. This down here is just frayed screen, and this up here is where they took a pencil, took the eraser and pushed it through to prove that these were all different. That's the pencil eraser. That's the shotgun hole. And that's weathered wire right there. So anyway, they did prove it. They, like I said, analyzed it and proved that these were actual, gun holes. And so anyway, they laid down. Everybody was exhausted, mentally, physically. The children were just, scared to death, crying. Finally got everybody in bed, laid down. My grandmother, she laid down here in the front room, and my daddy laid over here. And around 3:30 that morning, guess what? We're back. So they decide to come visit again. So my grandmother, she dozes off, but something wakes her up. And when she wakes up, she looks toward this window, and this is the window where they had fired through earlier. And there it is again. Hollers at my dad, who's over here. He gets up. Of course, he's got the gun on him. He didn't let it go. And shoots across here and shoots again. This one right here is where JC had shot earlier. But anyway, he shoots across the room at another alien. So here we go. The party starts again. They keep this up until around 5:15 the next morning when the sun starts coming up. The sun came up and they left. The only thing they could figure the reasoning behind that was they noticed when they had electricity, guys. They noticed that when they turned the lights on, like the porch lights, they had a porch light here, porch light back here, that they would color away like it hurt their eyes. So the only thing they could figure was when the sunlight came out, they left. Of course, they had the big eyes. So that was it. they were gone. Now, what do you do after you have something like that happen to you? My dad decided to go on living. We're going to try to forget this. We're going to let it go. We didn't get any help. So let's go on about our business. So the next morning, part of them went hunting, and part of them went to Evansville. While they were gone, that's when the other invasion started, the people invasion. People were there, reporters from everywhere. Of course, some of the police officers came back. They wanted to do some interviews and, the basic stuff that goes on when you have an alien encounter and you go screaming to the town next door. And my dad pulled up, and there's all these vehicles in the yard, and he's like, what's going on? And so they want to talk to you, my grandmother said. So anyway, they talk, and they tell him everything, and that was the biggest mistake of his life. He wished he'd never done it, because the people invasion was worse than the alien invasion. People were coming from everywhere, camping out in the yard, picking up stuff out of the yard, walking through the house and taking souvenirs. This is a poor family. They couldn't afford that. My grandmother was like, we can't keep this up. They're going to take everything we've got. And my daddy, being who he was, picked up the gun and said, I'll take care of it. And so he was about to go outside and take care of it, and my grandmother wouldn't let him. And she went and talked to one of the officers that was there, and so he got everybody to leave, but they came back after they left. And like I said, they were camping out in the yard. They wanted to see the aliens. They wanted to come back. They wanted to, get into all this and see the little beings. And so the people invasion started, and it was just really bad, and it really hurt my father deeply that all this happened. And but that's what they are. That's one of the actual drawings. I like this one because he's got abs. Whoops. He's got abs. But they all basically are the same. They got the big ears, the big eyes, long arms. And that's one thing that makes this story so credible, is because all of the drawings are basically the same. They took each one of them into a room by themselves, asked them to, tell them what they seen, and this is what they all saw. And so, hey, little beings. And I know they're not your usual aliens that we see and hear of now, but these are 1955 aliens, so we're going to keep it at that. But it's creepy. Even if they were just 3.5 foot tall, what would you do? I've had people come up to me and tell me, I seen something like that come up to my door. When did I go out and shake its hand? I'm like, really? Would you? But that's our makeup. We're so, like I said, desensitized that I believe some people really would try to do that. Not me. I'd run, probably go get the shotgun. But that's what they are. That's the well. That's the infamous well that Billy Ray was at when he went to get the water that night. And this is the little stoop where one of them had sat and reached down to grab Billy Ray's hair. Of course, there's the screen. My dad. There's my dad. JC, OP. My dad again. Oop, that was it. But anyway, like I said, what would you do? It's scary. It is the Great American Horror Story. This story affected their lives until the day they died. My daddy died in 95. And just before he died, he had some people contacting him from Germany wanting to bring the story back. He wouldn't do it. It scared him. It affected my Uncle J.C. so bad that he couldn't even keep a job the rest of his life. The three small children, of course, they're older now. The oldest one, Lonnie, he was 12. He remembers some of it because they hid him. My dad told the women, go to the back bedroom, hide the children, stay back there. He remembers hearing the screaming, the shooting, the cussing. There was neighbors that heard it. They heard the gunfire. There was actually the one that had the farm behind my grandmother's that he thought they were having trouble with some of their animals and was going to actually come up there and help them. They thought maybe some of the whatever they had gotten out. And so he put his boots on and grabbed his flashlight, and he was going to go up there and help them. By the time he got out the door and got ready to walk up there, the gunfire started. And he thought it was safer for him just to stay in the house because the way the guns were shooting, he thought he'd get shot, which is a great possibility because they were doing some heavy-duty shooting. There were several other neighbors that heard things that night. There was lights seen. There were sounds that were heard. There was police officers that seen things that night. Now, of course, nobody talked about this until later on, after the fact. Of course, my family was ridiculed. This hurt my father deeply because you didn't laugh at my dad. If you knew him, knew how he was, you didn't laugh at him. He was a little man, but I think that's part of it. You know, little, you've got that complex where everything's big, so I think he would fight a bear if he had to. And so it really hurt him deeply that people thought that he could have been lying, that they had made this up, which that's what they had thought. If they could have found something that had been good, but see, that was part of it too. Nothing was found. And they tried to put it off on owls, cats, monkeys, you name it. They brought it up, trying to say, well, it was this, or this. Excuse me, you shoot any of those, they're going to drop and die. Or there's going to be blood, there's going to be feathers, fur, something left where they had hit them because they were hitting them. They were definitely hitting them. So what do you do? Do you do what my father did and throw the family in the house and fend for them and start shooting? Would you do that now, in this day and time? You know, we look at our aliens, they're either an E.T., cuddly and sweet and nice, or there's something like from War of the Worlds. They're here to take us over. They're here to suck our brains out or use our bodies for incubators. You know, we don't know. We really don't. Friend or foe? We don't know until we really absolutely have one stand in front of us and it makes itself known. We're not going to know. All I know is my family had an encounter in 1955 Kentucky that absolutely frightened them, especially my daddy, till the day he died. And it's incredible. I just, I don't know what he would think today about this being brought back. The reason I wrote my book, Alien Legacy, was to fix the facts in it because I'd read so many different accounts of it, and things had been, like the 11 or 12 of them where my dad said no, it was 3 or 4. I've read some accounts where Billy Ray was abducted and never seen again, which he hasn't been. We can't find Billy Ray. We don't know where he is. So that is kind of spooky there, but after the encounter, my father decided to come home soon after that. Well, he worked with the carnival. He had worked with them since he was 14 years old. He had left home that young and met Billy Ray and Billy Ray's wife June there and became really good friends. And so they came home that weekend because the carnival was in Evansville. And my daddy was a very colorful individual. But after that event, he decided to come home. My grandmother sold the farm. 2 weeks later, she couldn't handle it. She was scared to death. She was left there with her 3 small children, and JC and Eileen lived with them, but she felt like JC was not capable of taking care of things like my dad was, so she was scared. So she moved into an apartment complex in Hopkinsville. Safety in numbers, she thought. Sold the farm in 2 weeks, got away because of what this did to her. You have something like this, you do. Me and my husband talk about this. We live out in the country. We have one neighbor. And our house has these huge windows. And I'm not a curtain person. I don't like stuff all over my windows covering them up. I like to be able to see out. And living out in the country, you can do that. And we talk about sitting in, like, watching TV at night and sitting in the living room with these big windows and thinking about, what if something came up to that window? What would we do? I don't know. You think about stuff like that. You really do. Especially when you have such a story that is so fantastic and absolutely, it's wonderful. I mean, this little story is just, it's great. It's, in ways I know it's hard to believe, but you've got to think about it. This happened to a simple farming family. Knew nothing about anything like this. A woman who was 50 years old at the time, highly religious. They thought they were goblins. That's why they were called the Kelly Goblins for a while, because they thought maybe they were something the devil had sent. Paranormal? Supernatural? Who knows? The fact remains that night there was the object in the sky. That night, other people did see and hear stuff going on that night. So, UFO, aliens, little goblins, whatever you want to call them, the family encountered something that night terrifying. And if it was to come up to our windows, I don't know what I would do. We don't have any dogs, so my dogs couldn't take care of them. Got cats, but I don't think the cats would like them. So I don't know. I don't know what we do. Do we have a shotgun? Heck yeah, we got a shotgun. We're ready. But I don't know. That's just like Bigfoot. What would you do? Come up to your window. Possibility. It's one of those things that people see also. Is he real? Hey, I would like to think so. Are there alien beings out there? I believe so. I believe they're out there. And did my family experience an alien encounter that night? I think they did. I don't think they were anything the devil had sent. I don't think they were anything supernatural. I think it was an alien encounter. And since I wrote the book, I can tell you this. I have had people come forward and tell me stories. I've had people come forward and tell me that it was an alien encounter, and they know it was. I had somebody tell me that he hunted me down, came to my house, telling me this fantastic story of a friend of his who was in the military, was on his deathbed, and said the Kelly aliens were real because the morning after, the Air Force went and found the spacecraft that had crashed 3 miles from Kelly They found the aliens, and they had been shot. They had been hit. Now, is it true? I don't know. The guy was telling it on his deathbed. I wouldn't think that somebody on their deathbed would lie about it, would they? And he kept this to himself all these years, and he needed to tell somebody before he died so somebody else would know? How about that? So we don't know. I'd like to think it's real. Maybe they do have that spaceship off somewhere, and we just don't know about it. Kept it hid pretty darn well over the years. Who knows? Maybe one of these days it will pop up, and we will find out the truth. But we don't know. We'll see. But friend or foe? I don't know. What if they were having problems that night? And what if their little craft made an emergency stop landing? What if, Kelly was where it happened and they were trying to find help? Since they didn't have anything on them, since they were raising their arms as in surrender, which tells me that they knew, some of our ways of doing things. If they knew the motion of surrender, what else did they know about us? Kind of scary. But what if they were having trouble that night? Well, I'll tell you what, they picked the wrong place to stop. I'll tell you that, because anywhere in Kelly, any house they would have went up to probably would have done the very same thing. They'd got out the guns and started shooting. So poor little they didn't have a chance. Poor little things had no chance whatsoever. But it's a fantastic story. It's a great little story. It's so fantastic that the community of Kelly now has a festival every year. Started it last year. It did great. We've got our second one this year. They're expecting so many more people. In fact, we're starting it on a Friday evening, so it'll be Friday evening and all day Saturday. And they're expecting this great one in 2017. So see, they're planning way ahead because we're having an eclipse. And guess where the best place to be is going to be that year to be able to see this? Kelly, Kentucky. And guess what? It's the weekend of the anniversary of the event. Oh, really? Wow, that's going to be really something. So they're really planning a big to-do, like a 4-day event that weekend because of the eclipse and the event itself being that weekend and everything. So that's going to be a fantastic thing. But the Kelly story is a great story. You have people, like I said, it's the great American horror story. It's got to be because it's frightening. It really is. Like I said, I don't want to do it. I don't want to see one. I don't want to be near one. It's really scary to me. This story scared the bejesus out of me. See, our parents kept it hid from us. We found out about it one Sunday afternoon in 1968, I believe, when these people came up to our door wanting to talk to my daddy. And I was the one that answered the door. Okay. They want to talk to my daddy about an alien encounter. And, okay, I was like 7, 8 years old. I'm like, okay, so I run to get my daddy, and they think, okay, well, we got to tell them now. So they set us kids down in a circle on the floor, and here my daddy tells the incredible story of the Kelly encounter. Scared me to death. Went through the house every night from then until, oh gosh, long time, years. Closing the windows, shutting the doors, making sure all the shades were drawn, everything closed up, because I didn't want nothing looking in at us. I was scared to death. So yeah, did it have an effect on me? Yes, it did for a very, very long time. It wasn't until like 2005 that I started realizing that this story is so fantastic simply because we had a festival in Hopkinsville for the 50th reunion, not reunion, 50th anniversary. It was then that I realized people love this story. They love it because it happened to a simple family. A family that didn't know any better, didn't know what they were encountering. And so people love it. And that's when I realized, when I got to hearing different things, that it's messed up. Stuff ain't right. Because after hearing the initial story from the man that was there, I realized that things were messed up. So that's why I decided to write the little book and fix it. But after I wrote the book, it was kind of like a release. I got to where, okay, it's going to be all right. Maybe, don't get me wrong. We could be driving at night in the dark, and I will still keep my, because I have seen a couple of unexplained things myself. I think a lot of us have. We just don't talk about it. A lot of people are just scared to talk about it. But I have seen a couple of things that really, really, really are unexplainable. You kind of put it off because we lived close to Fort Campbell military base, and you kind of want to just figure, well, that's part of that, but I don't think so. But it does put a scare in you when you grow up with it that young, and my dad didn't talk about it. Like I said, they kept it hid from us for a reason. And did he have any more encounters? I don't believe so. But he did not like talking about this one. I've been asked, have any of my family members ever had any other kind of encounters? If they have, they don't talk about it, and they won't talk about it. Like I was saying earlier, the 3 that are still alive, the older one, he just remembers a few things. The 2 younger ones have just completely made it go away. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it. As far as the festival's concerned, they're glad it exists. They're glad that we've come out with it, because as far as that's concerned, it has helped the community in leaps and bounds. This little story that my family just is terrified of now has been able to help this small community of Kelly do fantastic things, which my dad would be proud of. So that is one good thing that has come out of it. But he just hated it. I mean, you could tell when he would talk about it. If you got him to talk about it, he would go white. You could tell that it frightened him to the day he died. It just did. And I'm sure if any of us were put in that situation. And there are people here that have. You're going to hear from other people that have had some really creepy stuff happen. And I'm sure that's how my dad felt. Creepy. It's just terrifying. And that's what I'm trying to make people realize now. Used to when I would do speaker sessions, of course, I'd have people, like I said earlier, would come, and they're just there to hear the story. Me and my husband own a shop in our little town we live in, and our shop is really strange. Of course, we got all the alien stuff, and we got other weird things going on in there, but I'm the crazy alien lady because of this story. So people come in there and they tell me their stories. So I hear more crazy stories, and they think I'm crazy. And so, it's just a circle of just craziness going on. But it's fun. And now I done lost track. But anyway, sure. Repeat that question, please. The dead aliens? Well, we don't have any pictures of the dead aliens. Because there were none. There were no bodies found. Yeah, till after the fact, and we don't know. You know, the story I had told to me years later, well, it was just a couple, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. That was it. I mean, you know. So I don't know if that's true. That was somebody that came forward and offered that information, and they'd never seen anything that night. I mean, as far as bodies or anything, there was no bodies. There was no bodies found of anything that night. Animal, vegetable, mineral, nothing. Yeah.
Just 2 points. One, the Air Force taught a physics class to their cadets at the Air Force Academy from 1968 to 70. This Kelly story is in there as one of the true stories that they highlight in that class that they taught to their cadets. My question is, was the movie Signs based on this encounter with Mel Gibson? Because that's what I had heard.
Oh, now I haven't heard that one. I do know for a fact that Steven Spielberg used this for E.T. And the little, if you notice, the pictures of the aliens, the drawings, they look a whole lot like gremlins.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
Thanks.
But Signs would be a good one, because that, yeah. Sure would.
Were you able to determine, or from the family stories, things like that, how the beings moved? Did they float, walk, something like that?
Yes, yes.
This is actually quite similar to a case that we investigated in North Dakota about 2 or 3 years ago, where the farmer encountered a couple of beings that somewhat matched the description of the beings you're describing here.
Right.
And they were floating his prized sow out from the barnyard through a hole in the fence, and he took a shot at one of them and apparently hit the thing, and it kind of turned around, and then something else came up from behind him and basically blindsided him. And when he came to, it spun him to the ground, beamed him, and he woke up a couple of minutes later and grabbed for his rifle and looked around trying to find them, and they were gone, along with his sow. And but he had several big tears on his T-shirt, like claw marks, including some marks on his skin. And so what I was wondering is how the beings that that your family observed, how they moved.
Right. Wow. That is something. They floated above the ground. Their legs did not move. That's one thing that was noticed. They just floated above the ground. Their legs didn't move. Of course, their arms were raised, like I said, in surrender, or like surrender. Unlike that, but that is part of it. What would they have done if they had gotten in the house? That was part of it. This gentleman here said, this person had tears. What would they have done if they had gotten into the house with, especially the children? The children probably couldn't have defended themselves. Don't know how strong they were or what they would have done, but these little beings, they did. They floated across the ground.
Can I ask this briefly?
Sure.
Was there any follow-up, any kind of unusual contact with the family, like people or anything like that? Kind of strange people that would show up, and like either men in black or kind of anomalous people of any kind show up?
Right. No, there wasn't. If there was, they didn't say anything about it. The only people that really showed up was like they had reporters from magazines, newspapers, stuff like that is what it was. If they did have anything like that show up, they never did say, but it's like I said, my daddy wanted to forget it. He wanted to get away from it. My grandmother sold the farm, got away from it. And so they tried just to bury it and let it go, because it was, one, so terrifying. Another is because people talking about them. They hated it. And it was, you don't want to be talked about. You don't want to be laughed at. And that's what was happening with them. So they just wanted to let it go and get rid of it. just plain and simple. But no, if they did have anything like that, they never said they did. I've had that question asked a lot, but my daddy never. And, I wish so many times that I had talked to him about it. But like I said, it was hard to get him to talk about it because of the fact he wanted to get rid of it. So it was really hard. What I got was the story he would tell over and over again. And, I wish I had questioned him before he had passed away and gotten more info out of him if he had given it to me. Yes.
Yeah, you and I spoke last night at
Yes.
dinner about this, and you were saying that as your father was shooting at the beings, they would fall to the ground but then get right back up.
Right.
So it's unfortunate this lady left without quite understanding that. But my question is this: the gentleman who on his deathbed told someone about this event,
Yes.
did he say that the beings were actually dead?
Yes.
So eventually they did die from the gunshot
Yes.
wounds. Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's what he said. He said they had all three. There was three, and all three had been shot, and apparently their little craft had crashed like 3 miles from Kelly. So I wish we knew. You never hear of it, and we probably never will find it, if it is there, if they took it. Where did they take it? I know where they told me they took it, but I'm not going to say. But, I'm sorry. But where'd they take it? You want me to tell? Just down the road, guys, just down the road. Right, Patterson? That's what I was told. So see, that's one of those things. Do you believe it? Do you not? You don't know. In a way, I want to believe it because the poor guy was on his deathbed. Why would he lie about it and pass it on to somebody else? Don't know. You don't know. Yes. Yes, I did not do that, did I? When they hit the little beings, it sounded like a tin bucket, my daddy said. It sounded like they were hitting tin. So when they would hit, he'd ping, they'd drop, roll, get up, come back, floating across the ground. But they pinged. So that made them believe, well, they didn't know what they were coated. They're gray. They were gray. The Kelly Green thing came from a reporter, actually. Kelly Green kind of went together, so Kelly Green men, that's how that all came about. But they were actually gray. Anybody else? Billy Ray? See, they left. Like I said, my dad, Billy Ray, and their wives went back to work. So my dad came back home. He decided to come back home. He was ready to settle down. He was tired. Like I said, he had been traveling since he was 14 years old. He was ready to settle down and start a family. And he left Billy Ray with the carnival. He never heard. But June, Billy Ray's wife, it terrified her so much, she said she would never come back to Kentucky. Never. She was only 19 when this happened. So it scared her so bad, Kentucky was just off limits anymore to her. Not like they'd be anywhere else, but it was terrifying. You go through something like that, and I'm sure you have that kind of mentality that don't go to that state because they've got aliens, So they was just never seen or heard from again. I guess my dad just lost contact and tried to hunt him down. Tried to find a Billy Ray, but can't find him. So it is kind of strange. And June. Can't find June either. So we don't know. We don't know. They fell off the face of the earth, or we just can't find them. Don't know. Yes.
Have you ever had contact with or tried to make contact with the investigating policeman?
Yes, there have been. Like I said, we had the 2005, the 50th anniversary, and there was some there that was still alive. And, they tell what they seen and heard that night, But it's basically all the same. I mean, just what I have said. It's just they went, they looked, they couldn't find anything, gun shells, rifle shells, shotgun shells, screen door, all that, all messed up. No bodies, the glowing stuff on the ground, but no samples were taken. I can tell you this much. When we did hear this in 68, this happened in 55, when we did hear this in 68, the following weekend, my daddy decided to take us to Kelly. Now, I was born in Kelly, but my parents moved from there soon after I was born. So anyway, I had never been to Kelly, didn't know where it was. And so they decided to take us to Kelly. My daddy wanted to show us where it was. Now that the cat was out of the bag, let's show the kiddies where it all happened at. So we went. The well was still there. The old house was still there. Somebody had moved a trailer in front of the house. But we went back in the field, and lo and behold, there on the ground, I would say about the size of a 32-foot swimming pool, was a perfectly round bare spot. Okay, this happened in 55. This was 68. Still a bare spot in the ground. I remember just like it was sitting out in front of me right now. And of course, my brothers and sisters that was with us that day remember it too. So what was it? No samples were ever taken. Nothing. No protocol whatsoever was done the way it should have been done. The reason I heard that this was swept under the rug and forgotten about was because you're dealing with Kentucky hillbillies. They swept it under the rug. They swept it under the rug because they considered my family uneducated hillbillies. So, forgotten about. Okay, whatever. You have this big spot on the ground still in 1968. What's up with that? Even me as a small child, I'm not stupid. Something happened there. Perfectly round circle, dead grass, nothing growing there. Dang. So they just wanted to get rid of it. They wanted to get rid of the story. The Kelly Blue Book, if you look which I've got that, you look under it and see that's basically what it says, just wanting to be forgotten about. They just wanted to let it go. I don't know if it's because Fort Campbell was up there, because, see, I had been told another story about Fort Campbell, that they may have been a little involved in this. What do you believe? All I know is you have 11 people in a house that have an encounter. 11 people are not going to make up a story like this. 3 small children that are frightened to this day are not going to make this up. It's crazy to even think that. My grandmother, 50 years old at the time, highly religious. She wasn't going to make this up. And see, that's what made this story so credible, especially to Sheriff Greenwell, because like I said, he had his encounter a few years ago. He's seen something he couldn't explain. In fact, I think it was like 50, 100 people seen it that day. Something going across the sky, that's hovering above the sky and staying there. I forgot how many minutes it stayed up in the sky. He's seen this himself. So he knew when this happened to my family, there's something here. Something happened to this family. 11 people don't run 5 miles down the road to get help in the middle of the night. You don't do that, especially not in 1955 Kentucky, Kelly, Kentucky. You didn't do that. There wasn't much there at the time. So yeah, something happened. They had an encounter. And I believe it was an alien encounter. And my question goes back to you. What would you do? That's it. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, so that marks our lunch break. For those of you who are going to be going to the Travis Walton Luncheon, the food is going to be just outside, very similar to last night's format if you weren't here. It is serve yourself buffet style. Everything's already set up in both rooms.